So as I said, we're going to do 4 of my KISS patterns, and KISS again stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. So it's not that I don't like tying flies, but the problem is after I tie about 6 flies, my back really starts aching. So I have come up with these flies, and a lot of them that I came up with some of them were actually pretty complicated. Like my Scud pattern was way more complicated than it is now. And what I've done is I've just kept hacking it down until I've come up with something so simple, but it still produces really well. So that's the whole idea behind it. And it's just so that the whole idea is that I can pump a dozen of these out in no time, so that, you know, I'm not sitting here in pain for hours on end. So what I'm going to start with right now, actually, I'm going to start with, Barry has requested that I start with the Star Scud. And the reason being is because I did this presentation. Actually, I have a fly in there already. A hook in there already. I did this presentation for the Edmonton Trail Club, and Barry was there, but he only caught the first 2 patterns, so I'm going to go in reverse this time. So we're going to first tie the Star Scud. And I came up with this pattern a few years ago, and I was fishing Star Lake, and wasn't doing too well. I think I caught maybe 2 that day. And I came into shore, it was dark, and I decided to start casting from shore. You know, just couldn't give up, needed to catch one more. And it got dark, and you know what happens when it gets dark, suddenly the tangles start happening, your flies are all messed up and whatever. So I just put the rod away and decided to take a flashlight, and I was shining it in the water. And lo and behold, thousands and thousands of these scuds right on the shoreline. And if you've ever been to Star Lake, although it's a muddy bottom, right at the shoreline, they've dumped a lot of sand there. So where the scuds were coming up on shore, they were all the same color as the sand, even though the mud is a dark brown color. Right there at the sand, all the scuds were a tan color, matching the color of the sand. So that's where I came up with the color of this pattern, and the reason I call it the Star Scud. Now the hook I'm using is a Mustad 33.99 wet nip hook. I don't know if we can get that in there. There you go. And they actually don't come in this container anymore. They all come in the flat packaging now. And what we're going to start with is we're going to start with some lead wire here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're just going to wrap this on just like we would some thread. And I guess I should put my glass on because I can't see. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to trim off the tag ends on this lead here. We don't want to get it too close to the eye. Okay, and the thread I'm using is a tanned 8/0 thread. Oh yeah, the camera's pointed up, isn't it?
Well, you had it the first
There we
time.
go.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's a tan 8/0 thread. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie this in at the front, and we are going to clip off the tag. And what we want to do is we want to form a little bit of a bump up here. Let's just see if we can fix that a bit. So we want a bit of a taper going up here. I'm just going to build up this bump. And the idea of the bump, of course, is so that the lead wire doesn't slide forward onto the eye. Okay, and then as we come back, we're going to go at an angle, because what we want to do is we want to come back and do some crisscrossing. So as we get to the back here, we're going to form another taper, so a little bump here, so the lead wire doesn't slip on to the back of the hook. And then we're going to form these crisscrosses. And these crisscrosses keep this lead wire fairly secure so that it's not also not turning and it's not slipping anywhere or coming apart on you. Okay. So at this point we are going to tie in some gold wire, and the gold wire that we're using is the soft gold. This is the small. It's not the extra fine and it's not the medium. And we'll just cut that. Let's hook it first. And you can't see it from my side, but what I'm going to do on my side here is I'm just going to tie this in right at where the lead wire ends there. So I'm going to do that on my side, just because I can see it on my side. And we're going to tie that right down to the bend. There we go. Okay. So the next step is the dubbing. Now I tie this particular pattern with two types of hooks. This is my favorite hook to use because this one, it's fairly straight. And you'll notice if you observe the scuds in the water, when they're swimming, they're straight when they're swimming. When they're at rest, they're almost in a C shape. So I tie these two different ways. I tie it with the straight hook, and I also tie it with a C49S that has a lot more bend in it. And the C49S I make fairly meaty, and what I'll do is I'll hang that one under an indicator. This one here, I would strip this one in, give it some action, as if it's swimming. So you're going to notice that when I put on the dubbing, I'm putting it on fairly thick, much more than you would see on like a dry fly or something like that, because we want a little bit of bulk to it. And as well, I'm going to pull this material down for the legs of the fly.
What kind of dubbing is that?
This, oh, I'm sorry. This is the Wapsi South Scud dubbing. There you go. And you can pick this up at the fishing hole, and this is the rainbow color. It gives off a tan color, but it's got lots of different colors in it that I think pick up well in the sunlight. Now, obviously, any tan dubbing will work for this, but I just really liked the different colors that are associated with this.
You like Wapsi? Okay. Did you say Hassie?
Pardon me?
Did you say Hassie as well? You started with Star. Did you say Hassie Lake colors as well, or?
No.
No. Okay.
I didn't say Hassie at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Wapsi.
Wapsi? Oh, is that what you're... that's Wapsi.
No, I thought you said when it came to color or something.
You mentioned about the launch of the boat in Hassie.
Yeah.
It's going to has to be from the beach or something like that.
Maybe we were talking about the color of this. Has different colors in it, and it picks up the sun, right? So that's why I picked the Wapsi over stuff like Phil has some great Stillwater stuff that you know, also picks up the light. Okay, so we're bringing this forward, and we're going to tie it off, and we're not going to go right up to the eye. We're going to leave it a little bit shy because we're going to build that up, and we don't want to get too close to the eye of the hook. So what we're using here is this is the Stillwater Midge Flex, okay, and this is going to be the shell back. This is the 1/8 inch. Going to cut a piece of this up. Okay, so when we're tying this in, we're going to tie it in at the front here. And what you want to do is you want to use really soft turns. And the reason is because if you tighten it down really quick at the beginning, you're not going to be able to manipulate it. But if you take really nice soft turns on it, then you will be able to manipulate it and get it right into where you want it to sit properly. Okay, so usually what I do is I just turn it, and then I can see exactly where I want it, and actually that's set up pretty good. I did a pretty good job.
Well, we wouldn't expect anything less.
Exactly. Okay, so as we pull this, we're going to pull this back, okay? And we want to put a little bit of tension on it, but we don't want too much tension on it, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull it back so that there's a little bit of tension on it. And then what I want to do is I want to take this wire, and what we're going to do is we're going to cinch it down with the wire, okay? Now a lot of people do their stuff backwards. I'm not one of those guys because I really don't have a problem with my flies coming apart on me. So I'm just going to continue. And what I want to do is I just want to keep this taut, but I'm not pulling really that hard. And I'm just going to... So now again, I can manipulate this to make sure that it's fairly straight on the hook. So it looks pretty nice. And you don't have to worry about how many ribs you put in. Okay, so as I come up, I'm going to tie this off. And I'm sure you've all seen this trick by now, is just rotating the wire so there's no tag end sticking out. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is with this front tag here, I'm going to pull fairly hard on that. And the reason why is after I clip it, I want it to disappear under the thread. So we're going to pull fairly tight on that. Give it a clip, and as you can see, there's almost nothing remaining on that. Now we're going to tie this off. Actually, we're going to build up a bit of a head here first, sorry. I just broke it.
At least you didn't have to suck it back in.
That's right.
You're giving us all confidence there, man.
Dennis does that too.
Yeah, I've heard Dennis has a problem with it.
Dennis has all kinds of problems.
Premature breakage. Okay, we're just going to build a bit of a head. We don't need a lot, but just a little bit there. And we'll just tie that off.
Another man with a wood finisher, I love it. That's the way to do it.
Okay, now, on a lot of scuds, you'll actually see that guys are tying in tails on their scuds. I don't do that. What I do is I like to leave this tag on here as the tail. So I'm going to give it a bit of a pull. I'm not pulling it very hard, but just a little bit of a pull, and I'm just going to cut it so that there's a little tag end left over, and that's the little tail that I'm leaving on the scud. And the last bit of work we're going to do on it, I made this thing up. It's just like a popsicle stick. Actually, it's a nail file. And it's just got some Velcro. I glued some Velcro onto it. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And all we're going to do is we're just going to pull all this down. And you can see that now we're making the legs for the scud. So it works quite nicely. And my thread came off. I'll have to retie it. Let's do that right now because they want to keep these flies.
Do you cut the legs to the size of the point of the hook?
Yes. And when you guys take this fly, if you want to put on some head cement, I don't personally use head cement very often, so I didn't bring any with me. But if you guys want to do that, keep these flies and go ahead. Okay, so the last step, all we're going to do is we're just going to cut the leg so that it's even with the point of the hook. And you can trim anything that looks ugly on there. And that is it. That is the Star Scud. Really simple to tie and really effective. So that is the first one. I'll just throw that on here.
Have you tried different colored tails on them? Is that
Like I said, I don't actually put the tail on it. All I do is I just, the midge the midge flex, I just cut it and leave that as the tail. So whatever I'm using, I do tie these in brown too.
Put it down the alligator.